the most powerful man in Rome, sat down for dinner. The food was fine, the wine was cold, the servants were ready, and Marcus Aurelius, emperor of some 60 million people, pushed the plate aside. Not because he wasn't hungry, because he was. And that was exactly the problem. How did the Stoics handle the urge to eat when they weren't hungry? And why does the answer tell you more about the modern mind than any diet ever could? Picture Rome in the 2nd century. Not the Rome of movies, marble and glory, and clean streets. The real Rome. Noise, smell, excess at every corner, banquets that lasted 6 hours, tables collapsing under the weight of food that existed purely to signal power. In that world, a man in control of an empire sat at a table and asked himself a question that no one around him was asking. Why do I want to eat right now? Not because the question was academic, but because Marcus Aurelius had noticed something that most people spend their entire lives never noticing. The hunger wasn't for food. Seneca wrote it plainly in his letters, and he wrote it to you, not to posterity. He said that most men confuse appetite with hunger, the same way they confuse restlessness with purpose. You reach for something, you consume it, and the moment after, the sensation you expected to feel never arrives, because you were never hungry to begin with. The Stoics had a word for this: epithumia, desire, not need, desire. The craving that appears not in the stomach, but in the mind, in the gap between what is and what the mind insists should be. And here is where it gets interesting. The Stoics were not ascetics. They were not anti-pleasure. Marcus Aurelius ate well. Seneca was, by any measure, one of the wealthiest men in the Roman world. A fact he mentioned with the particular discomfort of a man who knew exactly what it meant. They were not against the table. They were against being ruled by it. Marcus Aurelius recorded his private struggle in the book he never intended anyone to read. Meditations was not published. It was not written for disciples or for history. It was a man writing to himself, in the second person, trying to get himself to behave. And he wrote about food, about the urge, about waking up and wanting more before the day had even offered him anything. He described the practice he used in plain language. Before eating, name the thing on the plate for what it is. Not a delicacy from Gaul, not roasted boar served in the Roman tradition. Just dead animal, dressed and presented to flatter your senses. This sounds almost aggressive. It is not meant to be. It is a neutralizing technique. Marcus was not trying to destroy the pleasure of food. He was trying to see through the story the mind builds around it. The story that says this specific thing right now is what you need. Because once you see the story, you get to choose whether to believe it. Modern neuroscience arrived at the same conclusion about 2,000 years later. What we call emotional eating, the urge to consume when there is no physiological need, is driven by the brain's dopamine anticipation circuit, not by the body's hunger signals. The craving is real, but the object of the craving is almost interchangeable. Food, in these moments, is not really about food. It is about managing an internal state that the mind has decided it cannot tolerate. Anxiety, boredom, a conversation that did not go the way you wanted, a low-level dissatisfaction that has no name. The Stoics called this the tyranny of the irrational appetite. They did not call it weakness. They called it the untrained mind doing what untrained minds do. The training was what mattered. If you have ever stood in front of an open refrigerator at 11 at night, not looking for anything specific, opening and closing the door as if the right answer might appear on the third attempt. Marcus Aurelius understands. He wrote about the exact same impulse. The reaching for external things to quiet an internal noise. And here is the part that changed everything for him, and that may change something for you. The Stoics discovered that the urge to eat when not hungry is not a failure of willpower. It is a signal. Specifically, it is a signal that the mind has encountered something it has not yet processed. An unresolved emotion, an avoided discomfort, a thought the mind is unwilling to hold still long enough to examine. The food is not the solution. The food is the escape from the solution. Epictetus, who had owned nothing through the circumstances of others, understood appetite differently than Marcus Aurelius did. Where Marcus ruled an empire and had to resist excess, Epictetus had nothing to resist. And yet he wrote about craving with the precision of a man who had studied it from the inside. He said the slave who is enslaved by appetite is more in chains than the slave who is enslaved by a man, because the master who owns your body has limits. The appetite that owns your mind has none. This was not a metaphor for Epictetus. He had lived both conditions, and he preferred the one where the body was bound, but the mind was free. The Stoic method for handling the urge to eat when not hungry was not a rule. It was a question, one specific question, applied in the exact moment the craving appears. Is this need or noise? Need. The body requires fuel. The signals are physical. Time has passed since the last meal. There is a biological demand being made. Noise. Something else is happening. The mind is uncomfortable. It wants relief. It has chosen food as the available relief because food is close, legal, socially accepted, and it works temporarily. The Stoics did not moralize the difference. They simply wanted to know which was which. Because if it is need, eat. With attention, not guilt. The body is a tool. It requires maintenance. Caring for it is not weakness. But if it is noise, sit with it. Not forever. Just long enough to identify what the noise actually is. This is the practice, not deprivation. Not discipline as punishment. Discipline as information. Seneca wrote, from one of his villas, with characteristic self-awareness, that the man who trains himself to endure occasional discomfort does not suffer more. He suffers less, because he has removed the fear of the discomfort itself. The person who has never gone to bed mildly hungry by choice lives in anxiety about the possibility. The person who has done it knows it is survivable. And knowing something is survivable is a form of power that no amount of food can provide. This is what the Stoics meant by voluntary hardship. Not suffering for its own sake, but deliberately, occasionally, choosing the discomfort so that the discomfort loses its grip on your behavior. Seneca called it inoculation, and he applied it to everything: cold baths, simple meals, the occasional fast, not as asceticism, as evidence. Evidence that the mind could function regardless of what the body was or was not receiving. The split screen here is almost too clean to need describing. Rome, 165 AD. Marcus Aurelius at a table of excess, pausing before the plate, asking the question, "Tonight, you." The refrigerator door open, the light in the dark kitchen, 1860 years apart, the same question unanswered, the same noise the mind has not yet named. You are not broken. The Stoics catalogued this impulse in detail because it is not a personal failure. It is the architecture of the human mind encountering modernity, or in Marcus's case, encountering empire, with the same original equipment. The equipment can be trained. That was always the point. Here is the insight the Stoics arrived at, that even they found unsettling. The urge to eat when not hungry is not about food, and it is not really about emotion management either, though that is closer. It is about identity. The mind creates a story about what you deserve, what you need, what would make this moment bearable. And in that story, the food is not a snack. It is proof of something. Proof that you are allowed comfort. Proof that the day is over. Proof that you survived what happened at 3 in the afternoon. The Stoics called this a false judgment, not a moral failing, a perceptual error. You have misread the situation. You have interpreted an external object as the solution to an internal problem. The correction is not willpower. The correction is accuracy. See the thing clearly, name it for what it is, and then decide, not react. Decide. Marcus Aurelius practiced this not because he was naturally disciplined. His own writings suggest the opposite. He practiced it because he discovered, through trial and considerable recorded failure, that the moment between impulse and action is where the entire quality of a life is determined. That moment exists. You have it too. The question is whether you know it is there. There is something Marcus Aurelius wrote that he probably would have preferred to keep private. He noted in his own journal to himself that he was better at giving advice about discipline than he was at following it. He wrote that the man who lectures others about appetite should examine his own table first. Seneca owned several villas and wrote extensively about the value of poverty. Epictetus had nothing and found that nothing was considerably lighter than something. None of them arrived at this wisdom clean. They arrived at it through the specific experience of failing at exactly what they were teaching. And that is, perhaps, the most useful thing the Stoics ever recorded about the urge to eat when not hungry. They were not models of perfect restraint who descended from a philosophical mountain to correct you. They were people who sat with the same open refrigerator, the same nighttime craving, the same gap between what they knew and what they did. And they chose, slowly, imperfectly, repeatedly, to close that gap. Not because they were better than you, because they decided that the training was worth it. The question Marcus Aurelius could never fully answer about appetite was not whether to eat. It was something older and harder. What is it exactly that I am actually hungry for? That question, the real one, takes more than one evening to answer. It may have taken Marcus Aurelius 20 years, and the journal he kept while working on it survived 2,000 years to reach you. What he wrote in it next, about the specific practice he developed for the mornings, when the answer still wasn't clear, is where the real method begins. That is the part we have not covered yet.